We've got our work cut out for us, but I am confident we will succeed. The United States has enormous sources of strength. We're going to build upon them. America's values are noble and powerful, and we will recommit to them. And America's leadership is needed around the world, and we'll provide it, because the world is far more likely to solve problems and meet challenges when the United States is there. America, at its best, still has a greater capacity than any other nation on earth to mobilize others for the better.
That was the freshly minted Secretary of State Antony Blinken in his first public remarks to State Department employees the day he was sworn in nearly 4 years ago. And Secretary Blinken joins us now near the end here of his term. Secretary, thanks for being with us this morning.
Willie, good to see you.
So much ground to cover with you. We got a lot of people who want questions, but you're back recently from the Middle East. So let's start there. We had the National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan here yesterday, sitting in that very chair, talking about how encouraged he was about the possibility this time for a ceasefire, with the usual skepticism because you are dealing with a terrorist organization. Where do you believe we are right now in the hope of getting some of the hostages home at least?
Well, look, we are encouraged because this should happen. And it should happen because Hamas is at a point where the cavalry it thought might come to the rescue isn't coming to the rescue. Hezbollah not coming to the rescue. Iran not coming to the rescue. It sought to have a wider war from day one. In the absence of that, I think the pressure is on Hamas to finally get to yes. So we should be able to get there. But look, I think we also have to be very realistic. We've had these Lucy in the football moments several times over the last months where we thought we were there and the football gets pulled away. So the real question is Hamas capable of making a decision and getting to yes? We've been fanning out with every possible partner on this to try to get the necessary pressure exerted on Hamas to say yes. I was in Turkey meeting with President Erdogan. We have Bill Burns, who's headed out, is already there in the region right now. Jake Sullivan, Brett McGurk, everyone is pushing on this. We want to get it over the finish line. We want to get the hostages home. We want to get a ceasefire so that people can finally have relief in Gaza.
What is the difference, Mr. Secretary, between the ceasefire that came relatively quickly with Hezbollah after Israel crippled Hezbollah to the north and what's going on with Hamas? In other words, how are they different negotiating partners?
Look, the ceasefire with Hezbollah came up because both sides wanted it.
Yeah.
Hezbollah needed the relief. Israel wanted it, too, because their main objective was making sure that they could get a secure buffer area so that people who had been chased from their homes in northern Israel because of the barrage of Hezbollah rockets and mortars could go back home. And the deal that we were able to negotiate with France, getting the ceasefire, getting a commitment from Hezbollah to move back, getting the Lebanese armed forces to move in and fill that space, that's what's made it. That made it a good deal for everyone. The Israelis didn't want to get bogged down in Lebanon. Hezbollah had taken a tremendous amount of hurt and pain, so both sides wanted it. The question now with Gaza, as it's been pretty much all along, is Hamas prepared to say yes? That's where we are.
And Mr. Secretary, Andrea Mitchell here, you just were talking very positively about it. The National Security Advisor was very positive about it. But in the last 24, 48 hours, you heard from the Defense Minister, Minister Katz, in the Golan Heights with the Prime Minister. And he seemed to be raising the stakes because we were told that Hamas had agreed that Israel could stay temporarily in these two key corridors, which was not the Hamas position for months and months, blowing up potential deals. But now he seemed to be indicating that Israel would stay longer. This would be a real occupation. And there are signals coming that, wait a second, this deal might not be so possible even before the inauguration. What is your read of that?
Well, first, a lot gets said, and a lot gets said for political reasons. And I think you have to work through that and look at what each side is actually prepared to do. Here's something else that we know is in Israel's interest. It's in Israel's interest to find a way to take an off-ramp in Gaza, because Israel set a couple of objectives after the horrors of October 7th to try to make sure they wouldn't happen again. One was to dismantle the military organization of Hamas. They've succeeded in doing that. The other was to get the leaders responsible for October 7th. They've done that. Having done that, this is a moment to take that off-ramp, but you've got to get the hostages back. The alternative is this: an enduring Israeli occupation of Gaza, which we reject. And we reject it, among other reasons, because it's profoundly not in Israel's interest. They'd be left holding the bag on what would be a long-term insurgency. For all of the Hamas militants who've been killed, taken off the battlefield, there are thousands more. And they have the capacity not to do another October 7th, but to make life a living hell for any occupying force in Gaza. It's not in Israel's interest to do that. But in order for this to work, we have to have an agreement on the hostages, and we have to have an agreement on what follows, a day-after plan, a post-conflict plan. We've done a lot of work, Andrew, as you know, on that over the last months with Arab partners, with Israel, with the Palestinian Authority. And if and when we get this hostage deal over the line, the next thing to do will be to get that plan agreed so we know what fills in and takes the vacuum in Gaza.
And I have to ask you about Syria, because I was with Deborah Tice, Austin Tice's mother, just the other day, and she's pointing out that the U.S. is not on the ground in Damascus. The Brits are going in, the French are going in. It's obviously a very, opportunistic moment, but also a very tense moment. Turkey is perhaps exerting too much influence and needs to be restrained in terms of U.S. allies in northeast Syria. But all that said, do we still think that we can get Austin Tice out? And she's appealed now to Vladimir Putin, as well as getting a promise from Bibi Netanyahu he won't strike Syria where Austin Tice might be. But why can't the U.S. go in with special forces, covertly, maybe you can't confirm that, and try to find him?
Yeah. So two things, Andrea. I saw Deborah and Mark Tice and the entire family about 10 days ago in Washington, just before I went back to the region. I committed to her, I committed to Mark, I committed to the family that we would leave no stone unturned in finding Austin and bringing him home. Since then, we have fanned out everywhere with every possible source, every possible actor who might be able to get information. And this involves, anyone and everyone who has some relationship with the different rising authorities in Syria. We've been in direct contact with them ourselves. We have other partners on the ground, and we're looking at getting on the ground ourselves as quickly as we can. But the most important thing is this: any piece of information we get, any lead we have, we're following it. We have ways of doing that, irrespective of exactly where we are. And I can just tell you that this is the #1 priority, is to get Austin.
And we showed you a minute ago Keir Simmons questioning Russian President Vladimir Putin. He asked Putin if he would help to find Austin Tice. Here's that exchange.
The mother of an American journalist who is missing in Syria, Austin Tice, has written to you and asked for your help to try to find him, because she says you have such connections with the Syrian government and former President Assad. Are you prepared to ask President Assad for information about what happened in Syria to try to find the missing, including this American journalist?
Frankly speaking, I haven't seen President Assad yet after he came to Moscow, but I plan to do so, and I will have a conversation with him. We are adults, we understand. 12 years ago, a person went missing in Syria. 12 years ago. We understand what situation was in place 12 years ago. Acts of hostilities were ongoing from both parts, from both sides. Does President Assad himself know what happened to that U.S. citizen, to the journalist who performed his journalist duties in the combat area? But nonetheless, I do promise that I will ask this question to him.
Putin there saying he will ask Assad about Austin Tice. Assad now, of course, has sought refuge in Moscow. Mr. Secretary, seeing Putin there, let's turn to the conflict in Ukraine. The incoming administration has promised a pretty different approach to that conflict than what the Biden team has done. What more are you trying to do between now and January 20th?
Look, I want to make sure that we're giving the incoming administration and the Ukrainians the strongest possible hand to play going into 2025. The Ukrainians have to make fundamental decisions about carrying on the fight or looking to negotiate and try to bring this to a ceasefire. The fundamental question is whether Russia is prepared to do that and to do that in good faith. But if it moves to that, we want to make sure that the Ukrainians and the Trump administration have the best hand to play to cut the strongest possible deal. And that means trying to reinforce Ukraine's position on the battlefield, making sure that it has the money, that it has the munitions, and that it has the mobilized manpower to carry on. It means continuing to exert maximum pressure on Russia, and Russia is feeling the burden of all of this pressure we've exerted with dozens of other countries over the last 2+ years. everything that Russia tries to do takes longer, costs more, and is harder to do. And of course, the losses on the battlefield are extraordinary. Putin keeps throwing these young men into a meat grinder of his own making. But I think President Trump, if he, when he comes in, if he wants to move this to an agreement, we want to make sure that he can have a strong hand in any negotiation. And that means reinforcing the Ukrainians. Look, I think, Jonathan, if this gets to a place where there is a ceasefire, and it's a ceasefire that's on just and durable terms, that would be a good thing. But for it to be durable, there has to be some kind of assurance that Russia's not simply going to rest, refit, and reattack in a year, 2 years, 5 years. That's going to be critical. If we get that, Ukraine is on a path to success. It's a country that is standing strongly as an independent country. It was not erased from the map. That's what Putin wanted to do. He's failed. It can stand strongly on its own feet, militarily, economically, democratically. That's the best possible rebuke to Putin. And I know President Trump will want to get a good deal going forward.